Hey there, and welcome to part 2 of the Music Producer Essentials course. Today, we're diving into the world of sound design. In this video, I will guide you through the 3 key steps that every sound goes through in the music production process. That is selecting, shaping, and combining. I will cover techniques that you can use in each step and the important things that you should keep an eye on. You can find a playlist with all the other course videos with the link in the description. And now, let's dive into sound design. Most songs contain a pretty straightforward combination of instruments. These are drums, bass, leads, and pads. The lead sound is often the melody performed by a vocalist or an instrument, and the pad sounds are keys or guitars that build the harmonic background. Most of my drums are sample-based, using samples that I either bought or created on my own. Occasionally I also synthesize my drums straight within the session. For example, this hi-hat right here is basically just white noise with a very fast attack and a fast decay. And the cool thing about that is now that you can manipulate the decay and it sounds like this hi-hat is opening and closing. I also really enjoy recording my percussion live with microphones. I have this collection of shakers and percussion things, and I really like to record these things new every time that I make a new song because it just adds a groove and a personal touch. When I record or program percussion, I always like to think about which frequencies are these percussion instruments playing. So this shaker, for example, it is probably a bit higher than a clap. This is the frequency band where this shaker will fit in. For the bass, I typically split my sound into 2 different ranges. A sub-bass, which will cover everything from 20 Hz to around 60 Hz, or also a bit higher depending on the notes that you play, and a mid-bass, which will cover everything above that. I always use different synthesizers for my bass sounds, and for the sub-bass I particularly like to use the operator in Ableton. I often also like to add a second oscillator with a sine wave that is pitched up by 12 semitones, so 1 octave, and this will create just a little bit more a richer texture and also adds a little bit more attack. For the mid bass, I often work with Diva inside of my DAW or with the Moog Mini Tower right here. Mid bass adds character to a sound, and that's the reason why I like to work with Moog or Diva, because Diva is modeled after analog gear and Moog is an analog device. And I just like the sound of it, you know, it's a little bit warm and also a little bit more unpredictable. Now for lead sounds and pad sounds, I'm not gonna go into all the synthesizers and instruments that I'm using because this will be just too much for this video. But I still want to pick 2 that I use quite often, and one of them is Serum by Xfer for more synthesized sounds, and the other one is the Composer Cloud by East West Sounds for more real instruments. The Composer Cloud runs on the Opus engine, and one thing that I really like about this is that you have these pre-listened samples, so you can browse through all the instruments, and if you like one particular sound, you can double click it and it will get downloaded in the background. So this way you don't have to store all the instruments on your laptop. And the other thing is, of course, it sounds pretty damn good. So Opus looks like a synthesizer, but it basically is just a sample library, so every time that you press a note, a sample will get triggered in the background. Serum, on the other hand, is a wavetable synthesizer, so basically you can load different waveforms into a oscillator and also morph between them. Now what I really love about Serum, just to mention that quickly, is that you can enter unison mode, which just makes these really wide sounds. And I also really love the LFO section that you can just patch to every individual knob on the whole synthesizer. If you would like me to cover more synthesizers or more synthesizer techniques, let me know in the comments. And now here are 3 quick tips for selecting your sounds. Think about the placement and range before you pick an instrument. Is there already another instrument playing at this frequency range? And also, always keep the whole stereo spectrum in mind. Be picky about choosing high quality samples. It's worth spending a little bit more time on choosing the right sound, because with that you can really prevent a lot of problems down the road. Always keep the full picture in mind. Does the sound that you've picked also match the initial idea that you had during the composition phase? Once you've chosen your instrument, it is time to shape this sound. Now you can adjust many different things, but roughly speaking I would put these things into 4 main categories. The frequencies, which also includes the pitch of a sound. The amplitude, which is controlled over time with an envelope or ADSR curve. The timbre, which is basically the color of a sound, and this includes the waveform and all the overtones that are being generated by it. And the spatial location, so where is it panned in the stereo spectrum. To explain each parameter, I've chosen 3 instruments which all have very different characteristics. The piano has a wide frequency range with complex overtones, a natural ADSR curve with quick attack, and a variable sustain depending on the pedal. It has a sawtooth-like waveform that creates a full, resonant timbre. It is often panned to mirror the keyboard layout and is quite wide in the stereo spectrum. The clarinet emphasizes odd harmonics, giving it a warm but hollow tone, and it has quite a flexible ADSR curve because it is controlled by the breath. The waveform resembles a square wave, and the panning is often in the center or a little bit left depending on the orchestral setting. The 808 snare drum has quite a narrow, mid to high frequency range. The ADSR curve is characterized by sharp attacks with a quick decay, and it has this noisy, metallic character. And the panning is mostly in the center for most mixes. So if you want to shape a sound, you can think about one of these 4 parameters. You can use equalizers or filters for frequency shaping. The envelope, but also a compressor, controls the amplitude. You can change or adjust the timbre by selecting different waveforms or adding overtones with saturation or even distortion. You can shape the spatial location with stereo imaging plugins, with reverb, or with simple panning. And now here are my 3 quick tips when it comes to shaping your sounds. Automate everything. For evolving sounds, things always change over time. Use LFO to trigger tremolos, vibratos, filter changes and changes in the ADSR curve. I, for example, always automate the attack on my bass sounds. Print to audio for more control. Record your synthesizers and effects onto a separate audio channel so you can really clearly see the waveform. This will lead to bolder edits and a better mixdown. Use delays and reverbs creatively by automating the feedback on delay or decay on a reverb. Layering similar sounds can be great for creating a fatter and richer sound, but it should be done with some things in mind. Layering works by using 2 or more sounds that complement each other. Let's say you have a clap, but it sounds thin and it doesn't cut through in the mix. Instead of boosting different frequencies with an EQ, which can lead to killing it by overprocessing, you can select a second clap sample, which has another emphasis on frequency and transient. The first clap might focus on higher frequency ranges and on the transient, while the second clap focuses more on the mid frequencies and on the body of the clap. The same also applies to pad sounds. Just duplicate your pad sound and select a different instrument or a different preset on the second pad. This can lead to a much fuller and richer soundscape. But always keep the role of every element in mind. One might provide a more deeper, warmer and a more centered sound, and the other one creates a more airy, high and wide sound. And here are my 3 quick tips for this last section. Group similar instruments and process them together. This helps to glue everything together and makes everything more cohesive. Don't be afraid to cut broadly when layering. You might only need one part of a sound. Be aware of phase cancellation, especially when you layer many different sounds which are in the lower frequency range. If you want to dive into even more sound design things with me, I also offer private lessons on Zoom and Listen To. I offer to give feedback on your tracks, guidance on finishing your projects, or even just teach music production from the ground up if you're new to all of this. If you're interested, check out the link in the description. My next video will be all about arrangement, so how to turn actually a loop into a full song, how to create transitions between different parts, and just create a meaningful storytelling within your song. If the video is already out, it will be the video right here. And also don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.